What kind of person would tell their former boyfriend and the father of their child that they had killed the baby because of them? I mean, that's a level of cruelty that is off the charts.
There has to be an answer for Gabriel. There has to be a moment where you say, okay, we got it. If the worst did happen to Gabriel, someone knows. Not just her. There's no perfect criminal. There's always a trail. And I don't think that she was smart enough to outwit everyone.
And suddenly this disappearance, this bizarre and weird story of the mom absconding to Texas suddenly becomes sort of a global story, and everybody's now wondering, where's baby Gabriel?
San Antonio is the big town with the small town feel. Everybody knows somebody else here. If you grew up here, you knew people who became mayor, somebody became the police chief, city council person, works in the movie industry, works in TV. The Gabriel Johnson case stands out because it brought the spotlight on San Antonio.
You saw this face of this little boy. So for us in San Antonio, it was like, wow, that happened here? Then you just wanted to know more and more.
Missing persons cases to me are the toughest because the idea that somebody just vanishes and disappears and the family doesn't know, and so you're always holding out hope that somebody's going to call and say that they saw, they saw their loved one or they've got some information on somebody, and that's the toughest part. At least with, a traditional sort of murder investigation, you have a crime scene, you have a body, and you can sort of figure out what happened. But when somebody just disappears, that is incredibly challenging.
There is a very real problem with gray market and black market adoption in the United States. And states that facilitate those arrangements by allowing maternity support, like Texas does, even though Texas limits it to agencies, by having laws that allow children to be adopted without an unmarried father's consent, that allow mothers to cross state lines. They're creating a garden in which some very vile produce can grow.
Did you ever receive any money from anyone after you left here for San Antonio?
No, never.
So you didn't have any income for the 13 days that you were gone?
No, none.
Okay. Nothing from pawning anything when you were on the road?
No, I was planning on pawning that ring, and I went to a couple places, but they weren't going to give me anything that it was worth, so I did pawn it.
Elizabeth explained that when she went to Boston, one of her jobs was being a hand model for a jewelry store. And she claimed that in payment for doing that the owner of the store had given her the ring. Well, Logan said over and over again he never had seen that ring. She definitely had not had it before. They had had money issues. They had had hard times. If she had had that ring for any length of time, she would have pawned it to help their situation. She wouldn't have just kept it.
That right there tells me that somebody paid her for a baby, because she wasn't able to pay her rent the next month, she told me. This is part of the reason why we said, we'll adopt you, you can come live with us, because she had no way of taking care of the baby.
One of the reporters tracked down Tammy's mom and interviewed her. And in that interview, he was told that Tammy had had a ring, a very expensive ring, that had gone missing from her home.
I had gotten word that her personal belongings might have included a ring that was very important to her. And certain people involved in the investigation, certain sources at the time, led me to believe that this ring may have been payment for the underground adoption. A lot of times these women are not paid in cash, they're paid in some type of goods that can't be traced.
Elizabeth and her grandmother were getting in their car to leave, and they actually almost ran over the reporter backing out.
And I remember immediately jumping out and asking her every question that I possibly could, including the one that you always ask when you write into Elizabeth Johnson, where is Gabriel? Which she would not give any answer to.
In all of the mayhem that went on, Elizabeth's hand was in one of the scenes from this filming, and Tammy's mom told the reporter who interviewed her that she could identify it as Tammy's ring.
Follow the ring. Where did the ring come from? What kind of ring was it? Where was it made? Who made it? What jewelry store sold it? A $30,000 or $40,000 ring, I think $1,200 is the most expensive ring I've ever owned.
This case wasn't the most complicated case I ever had. I didn't even have a crime scene for the most part. I didn't know where the crime scene was. I wish I could tell you that I never handled cases involving children before, but I have. I didn't have to go to an autopsy or anything like that. This case was just challenging, and it remains to be sort of this big mystery still, because while I have my beliefs as to what happened, the reality is we don't know where Gabriel is.
So you have the theory that she first started with, right? She took Gabriel to San Antonio, and then she tells Logan that she killed him and put his body in a dumpster. But then you have Elizabeth changing her story and saying that she adopted him out to some unknown couple.
My understanding is that you have information to provide to us to allow us to get the safe recovery of Gabriel. If this is information that we need to act on, but we need to be able to get resources in place for that, then every minute is ticking, in essence, from this point on. There are multiple sides to every story, and that's something that I am truly interested in hearing, okay? But at this point, what I'd like to do is I'd like to at least ask you the information that you have in reference to specifically how we can go about ensuring that Gabriel is safe.
I personally did not get involved in the case until a full 2 weeks after she had already been arrested down in Miami. She was staying at a hostel in Miami, and they picked her up there. She had been in San Antonio probably 3 weeks before that. And so the last known sighting of Gabriel, or the last that we have sort of the proof of life, if you will, is a photograph that was taken of him in the hotel room.
So it's been a while since I've been down here. It was a bit sketchy, but it's really sketchy now. So when you drive in, as you can tell, this is not like an easy hotel. Oh, I saw it and I got off the highway. It was kind of like she must have looked for it. When we came, the women that worked here, the housekeepers, were telling us all the stuff that was in the room, all the things she left behind. She had left behind some baby's clothes. She had left behind alcohol. A bottle of alcohol was in there. Just different things. So as far as how the baby was, they said the few times that they had seen him, he seemed to be fine.
By the time I got to the hotel, she had long checked out. There was somebody else that had already checked in. I still looked at the room, trying to look for any sort of biological evidence that may have been left behind. At that point, if there was a crime scene, it had been contaminated. It would have been cleaned up. I didn't see anything that jumped out at me. I didn't see anything that was very obvious that there was, blood evidence or any sort of biological fluid evidence that would have led me to collect anything. We did take some photographs of the room to document kind of at least what the room looked like, and then we were able to recover some personal items that she had left behind, which the FBI was able to examine for us. But again, nothing pointed us into a direction that would have led us to believe that it was anyway had evidentiary value to prove a crime. It was just personal belongings that belonged to Elizabeth and some belongings that were Gabriel's.
So as you can tell, you can clearly hear the traffic, but you don't see it just driving by down the highway. So how would she ever find this hotel?
I don't believe Elizabeth Johnson chose to come to San Antonio of her own volition. She had never been here. She had no reason to be here, except that I believe she was directed here. And she was directed by people who were familiar with the fact that San Antonio is known for easy adoptions. Texas is a state that's known for being adoption friendly. And my belief is that Elizabeth Johnson was sent here by people who had a vested interest in getting Gabriel adopted at any cost.
Do you think that
Tammy has the intent to hurt Gabriel?
No, I don't think that at all.
Do you think she was obsessed with getting him, to raise him, to have him?
Definitely.
To keep him as her own baby?
I think definitely she was obsessed with that. And she even told me she felt like she'd given birth to him and loved him like she'd given birth to him. So I thought it was kind of weird, but I was like, yeah, he's a great baby. Who wouldn't fall in love with him, you know?
Then you have to remember our technology was very different back then. So it's not like you just put it on your cell phone and, okay, this is where all the hotels are at. It's just really, really odd. And it happens to be the hotel where a lot of the expectant moms were housed by one of the most notorious adoption agencies that has ever existed in San Antonio, that had national media surrounding it.
At the time, the hotel that she stayed at, the Homegate, was conveniently located in a neighborhood that was very close to what was then Texas' most notorious adoption agency.
The manager had told us that they had seen Elizabeth right under those stairs talking to a couple, to a man and a woman. So who were they? And we've asked about that, but there were no cameras in that part of the hotel.
So there was a lot of discussion with some people at the hotel. Most people claimed that she kept to herself, that they hadn't seen her or they saw her coming and going. There was a witness, maybe a hotel employee, that thought that she had been there with someone else. We followed up on those leads and we could not find anyone that she had been there with. By and large, by all accounts, she kept to herself. She didn't meet up with anybody there. People certainly will speculate on that, but none of the evidence we were able to gather led us to confirm any of that to be true.
The hotel, from what I understand, was used mainly in illegal adoption. Parents would be put out there, and I don't know if that was where they would necessarily like get to know each other, but that is what that hotel was primarily used for. Nefarious things, let's put it that way.
I didn't uncover anything to prove that that happened. And a lot of the speculation about this being this underground adoption agency, a lot of that was generated online. There was a lot of people that had some online investigative skills that they were putting forth. I just didn't find that connection, and neither did any of my colleagues.
It would be a lot easier to just write off Gabriel Johnson as a tragedy in a San Antonio landfill. But I don't think that's the truth. I don't believe that Elizabeth Johnson could live with herself if she knew she had left her son behind in a dumpster. I don't believe it. Not because mothers can't do that, not because they don't, but I don't believe that that's the woman she is.
So there are things in this case that really stand out to me, especially as a reporter. For a lot of them, we got there before the police even got to that hotel. So I got to speak to a lot of the people right away, before police had even spoken to them. One of them was a clerk, a young woman who had been working at the hotel when Elizabeth had stayed there. So she remembered going to the room and a man opened the door. Supposedly Elizabeth was here alone. So she was here alone also. Where did this guy come out of? And why the pizzas?
I was with Logan at the time, and he found it very odd because she's not a big spicy eater. She wouldn't eat peppers on her pizza, and there was a pizza with peppers and a supreme pizza which she wouldn't touch. And so there were some inconsistencies or some proof that she was with or doing something with other people.
We talked about that. The investigators and all of us talked about it. There was a lot of deliveries for food. Ultimately, there was no evidence. We could not put anybody else in that room with her. I'm not saying that there wasn't, I'm just saying we couldn't prove it.
Something so dumb as an order of pizza told Logan immediately she could not have been alone. because she would only eat cheese pizza.
And then I had the FBI asking me, is this the kind of pizza that she ate, or, you know, would she be getting one for her? And then, because it was kind of weird, there was 3 large pizzas and then 2 liters of Coke, you know, just for her, which was pretty odd.
It sounds unusual, but I think there's probably a reasonable explanation as to why she was ordering that food, and the amount. It wasn't extraordinary to most of us.
But then my news editor stands up and says, Yami, holds up the phone. This lady says she's Elizabeth Johnson's babysitter.
Elizabeth Johnson's babysitter was one of the last people to see them together.
And she said she showed up, and Elizabeth was very on point. You have to give him this, you have to do this, you have to. It just doesn't add up.
We're told that Elizabeth Johnson found a babysitter for her child so that she could go on a job interview. That indicates that she had plans on building a new life. She was trying to make a responsible arrangement for her child by placing her son for adoption.
What kind of person would do that? That would hate someone so much that they would tell them that they killed their child just to get back at them, and then blame them for doing it, saying, you made me do this. I mean, it's crazy, right? At the very least, it's horrible. But even when I first heard it, I didn't think she did it. Because what mother kills their child? It wasn't until weeks and months and years later of getting to know Elizabeth Johnson that I realized, oh, she's the kind of person that might kill their child.
Elizabeth Johnson had confessed and told her ex-boyfriend that she had placed baby Gabriel in a bag and suffocated him and thrown him in the dumpster behind the motel that she was staying in. So I was one of the members that searched the landfill looking for the bag that was alleged to have contained baby Gabriel.
You just saw line after line after line of law enforcement just going through what looked like this conveyor belt of trash. Small pieces, little things, just everything coming down the conveyor, and they just stood there and did it. And mind you, this is a landfill, so from even the height I was at, you're getting hit with this dust and dirt and this solid stench of decay. And I'm thinking to myself, that can't be a good time down there.
Clothed in Tyvek. We had respirators. Our boots were duct taped to the Tyvek so that no air from the outside reached us. We were only out digging for 15 minutes at a time. And that protected the agents and the other folks that were out there. So it was very emotional and very taxing.
I gave the signal to my helicopter pilot over the headset. I said, okay, I'm good, so we can go. And as I was leaving, I remember thinking, God, I hope this is not how it ended. I hope this is not where he's at. And after absorbing all the stench and the smoke and the dust, and I'm thinking, hope this didn't end this way. And out of this blue, this press conference announced. And so we end up at the press conference. There's national media there, Arizona media there, crowded with cameras, newspaper people. And we're all looking at each other kind of nervous. Yami and I are looking at each other kind of nervously thinking, well, they called a press conference for a reason. What's the reason? So Chief walks out.
This case leaves us with somewhat of a bittersweet conclusion. The good news is that we have no homicide at this point. The bad news is that the case remains open.
And then he just says it. Found no trace of Gabriel Johnson in the landfill. And there's this audible sigh between her and I. Even after all the stuff we had researched and all the things that we had, places we had visited, people we had talked to, people who had said she couldn't have killed him at this point. You still can be wrong. We don't have every detail. We don't have all the answers. Our hypothesis could be wrong, our theories could be wrong. But you just don't know. It goes back to that, who knew exactly what happened? And so when you get that answer from the landfill saying, well, he's not there, check one off the list. Okay, let's look for another place.
We were out there for 2 weeks. I believe based on the management of the landfill, the science of where they were able to locate that dumpster, the thoroughness of the team, the cadaver dogs that we had out there, I do believe that if baby Gabriel were in that landfill, we would have found him.
Part of me kind of wanted him to find at least, maybe the diaper bag with his dead body, so that we wouldn't be here, 12 years later, not wondering still if he's dead or alive. And if we're looking for somebody that's alive, or if we're looking for, a body somewhere.
Where it gets really murky is when she changes that story. I met up with a couple in San Antonio at 10 a.m. at a park with the initials RR, and I gave them the baby.
I park in the parking lot and I get the baby and I walk out and start looking around and walk around the walkway, the pavement area, and I immediately see a couple sitting down on a bench, and I approach them and they say, "Elizabeth?" And I say, "Yeah," and then, they say, "Hi, we're Tammy's friends," and I say, "Okay." They asked how I'm doing, and I said, "All right." It's the babies, like everything okay with him. Then I just kind of say goodbye to Gabriel and put him in the car seat for them. And after that, they, I say, "Okay, bye," and, they say, "Okay, your baby's gonna be taken care of and everything." And I say, "I know," and I walk away and I leave.
How did you get to that park then?
They had told me the intersections, Tammy did, and what my intersections were, what they're close to, and I figured it out from there.
Did you write it down anywhere?
No, I might have. I don't remember. I think I did.
Her journal, Elizabeth had drawn the directions on how to get here. It wasn't like she just drove here. She wrote it down in a journal how to get here. That she came here, she was told to come here, she parked the car, and that she sat somewhere here between the first few benches. And that's where she waited for the people so she could hand Gabriel over. The questions that we have are always, okay, Logan said anytime that they were giving the baby to someone, the baby had the diaper bag. So where was the diaper bag? Was the diaper bag found?
In the last known photograph of Gabriel, there is a green and white duffel bag in the background. And based on just, a lot of it was just our intuition, our belief. We never found that bag. If she was going to put him in something to try to dispose of him, that seemed to make some sense to us. And again, we found a lot of items of evidence that she left behind. The idea that she left those behind is concerning to me, it's troubling to me, and it makes me suspect that she had no use for those anymore.
Or does it fit the story that I handed my baby over and he had items that I thought were important, and I gave the couple the bag and the baby, and they took off with him? Unless she spent time trying to make up this alibi, perfect alibi, with the amount of time that she had, how is it that she found this park? How is it that she drew it as if somebody was telling her where to go? And how is it that she described to a T the parking spots and the tables, the picnic tables where they were at? It just makes you wonder.
Did you give the family anything else besides Gabriel?
Yeah, I packed him a diaper bag with diapers and bottle and formula and baby food and wipes.
What was the diaper bag? Can you describe that to me?
Yes, it was green.
Okay.
She gave this random vague story about this park. She couldn't even describe the park. The stuff that she could describe was stuff that she was picking up based on some of the questions, that she was being given, being led almost. And when you interview somebody, you've got to be careful that you don't give them information that's going to lead them, and they start telling you what you want to hear versus what the truth is.
The park, did it have, you said it had a basketball court, did it have a baseball field?
No.
Or a softball or anything like that?
No.
Did it have a public swim area?
No.
Like a splash pad for little kids?
No, that's not.
The trees, were they huge trees? Were they small trees?
Huge trees. I guess oaks or something like that.
Okay. How many of them would you say there were?
There was a lot.
Like if you're walking from, like when you get to the park, can you see like the end of the park on the other side when you're there? Or is it like when you're in the park?
Kind of, but it's kind of big and the trees kind of block a lot of views to the whole park. I would say more medium, I guess.
Is there a parking lot for the park?
Yeah.
Okay. How large is the parking lot?
Medium, just small, medium.
How many cars would you say could be held in that parking lot? I mean, was it like row upon row upon row upon row upon row, or was it just one single row, or?
It's one section, but I'd say, I don't know, 20 cars.
The parking is directly behind us. So she parked the car, and then Elizabeth says she walked over to one of these picnic tables and she sat here and waited for that couple to hand Gabriel over with. I know that she was asked how she felt about it, and she said she was sad, you know, kind of gave him over, and that was it. He was gone.
Anything else about this park that you could call it? And this is, you know, this is the important thing. So I want you to take a minute to relive that moment.
It's a fast moment.
Okay. Well, I know it's a fast moment, but it's also a very crucial moment in your life.
If this truly happened the way that she says it happened, it had to be extremely hard to give up that baby. Regardless, you know, having mental health issues doesn't mean that you don't love your child. Or did she love that child too much and think that this was going to be a better life for him? It's either that or she just killed her baby. I mean, that's the thing that everyone tries to wrap their mind around. Did she just kill her baby, or was she truly trying to find a better life for him than what she thought Logan would be able to give him?
There's no way that that particular park was just, oh, hey, there's a park. And I know this because I used to live close to there and I used to take my own son there. And when I first moved to San Antonio, I didn't know that park existed. But that park was planned. It's just not a park that anybody would know about. It's just not.
There was a adoption facilitator from California who has a history of getting shut down in Texas. She had previously started a made-to-order, mail-order embryo service, which the feds had shuttered, and she had returned and was allegedly doing unlicensed private adoption referrals and getting paid very well for them. And she was living very close to the Raymond Rinkus Park, which is the last place that Gabriel was reportedly seen. Is it circumstantial? Yes. Is it probable? Probably.
The question about the text messages and the conversation with Logan.
Yes.
About Gabriel and his little blue body, I think you rephrased it.
Yes. I was trying to convince him because he didn't believe me and he knew what I was trying to do. He knew I was just trying to mess him up, make him mad and upset him. Because this is how our relationship has always been. We say things to each other to hurt each other and keep trying to top the other. And that's what we do to each other. It's a very unhealthy, toxic relationship. And we just try to hurt each other. That's what he's been trying to do with me with all the legal stuff, is trying to hurt me, and I wanted to hurt him, and that was the only thing I could do. And I also blamed him for me giving away my baby. I wanted to do it on my own. And also ruining my life. I blamed him for everything. Ever since I met him, he brought me down and just took everything from me, and it just destroyed my life. And now he was gonna destroy it more legally, and I felt like I lost my baby in a way. I felt like, I completely lost him. Just everything just, I think when I was sitting in that bus station, hit me like a ton of rocks, because everything happened so fast and was so overwhelming and just crazy, really. How to handle my emotions, I guess.
And, when I originally heard the phone call, the message that Logan had recorded where she says, I suffocated him, I put him in a bag, I put him in a dumpster, you made me do this. When I heard that, I didn't think that somebody could be that cruel without actually going through with what they said. And so that was probably the moment that I thought, well, there's a chance that she really did do this. But I have since learned that she has actually leveraged that kind of horrible lie before this even happened. She was angry at Logan once before and told him at that point, I killed your child, I killed Gabriel.
But it was kind of like her sadistic way of getting back at him for him not providing what she thought she should get from the relationship. So to me, when she said, I suffocated his little blue body, you can find him in the dumpster, I was like, I don't know if I believe that one.
I was getting ready to go to work one morning and my phone rang and it was my mom on the phone and she was just sobbing. She was crying so hard and she was trying to talk, but I couldn't understand what she was saying. And I kept saying, you need to calm down. Tell me what's wrong, what's happened. And she said, it's Gabriel. And I said, what's wrong with Gabriel? And she said, the police are looking for him. And I said, well, what do you mean they're looking for him? And she said, Elizabeth said she killed him and that he's in a dumpster. So the police are out looking in dumpsters trying to find his body. The police had taken Elizabeth in and they questioned her, and finally about 4 a.m, she admitted that she hadn't killed Gabriel, but she had given Gabriel to Jack and Tammy. I talked to even law enforcement and told them the same thing. She said this before, and so why do we believe it now? But it was like nobody heard me, even though I said it. Nobody was listening.
Elizabeth called Tammy. They had a conversation. They talked in great detail about who did what.
Hello?
Hello?
Tammy?
Yes.
Hi, it's Elizabeth, and I really can't hide all of this anymore, your involvement in this and all the plans you made, and you're completely denying everything and saying you weren't
Wait, what plans did I make? What are you talking about?
Set it all up. They were your friends.
No, they weren't.
Yes?
Then who are they? Then what's their names if they're my friends?
I don't know. You set it all up in San Antonio.
Okay, why would you be lying about that now, saying that we set that up?
You know, you and Jack sent somebody to pick up Gabriel at the park. And because we didn't, I was like, what the heck? I mean, I knew immediately that something crazy was happening. And I didn't feel like I was on the earth anymore. I'm saying, what the heck? It was already crazy and twisted.
It's not true, Tammy.
Elizabeth, there is something seriously wrong with you.
There's nothing wrong with me. You're the one going around acting like a crazy person. You set all this up, and all I did was do what you told me to do.
She's telling me these things, and I'm saying, what? Why are you saying this? You know that didn't happen, you know?
Elizabeth, please just tell people, you've got to remember. If you remembered mine and Jackson Hannah's name after the very first time we met, you have to remember this family that you gave the baby to. You have to.
One thing you knew about Elizabeth Johnson is that she was going to look out for number one. And as soon as she realized that she was going to spend time in jail, but I almost think that she wanted some of the blame shared. And I think she wanted to drag Tammy into this. Maybe Tammy deserved to be dragged into it. But for a brief amount of time, it was all Tammy's fault. Tammy made her do this. Tammy talked her into it. It was Tammy's idea that this adoption was going to happen.
Saying that we set you up with a couple that we didn't set you up with.
Yes, you did. You wanted the baby, and you had a million plans how to get the baby.
Elizabeth, if we set you up with the couple, then why can't you remember their name if we set you up? Why can't you, if we set you up with a couple, then how come you don't have their name and phone numbers?
Names and numbers weren't exchanged.
Then how did we set you up with a couple?
It was through you.
How did I do that? I didn't know where you were.
Yes, you
San
did.
Antonio's
You knew exactly
huge.
where I was.
How did we know exactly where you were?
I told you.
Huh?
I told you.
The real reason that I think that was going on is the more you confuse the judge and the jury, the less time you're going to spend in jail. It wasn't all my fault. It was Tammy's fault. I'm just a young girl with a new baby. My life was too much for me to handle. This woman talked me into this plan. But I think Elizabeth was smarter than that. I think that she was just trying to deflect enough blame to spend less time in jail.
How are we going to get the baby if you're out there? How does that get us the baby? Do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, by all the plans that you came up with and that we did.
What are those plans? Tell me what those plans were that we came up with.
In San Antonio, when we were talking every single day.
Yeah, what were the plans?
You know what the plans were.
No, I don't. I'd love to hear them, though. I'd love to hear those plans. Can you think up of any?
Yes, I can. And I've already gone over them with you.
No, because I don't know what plans you're talking about.
What about going to Nashville?
Besides the one plan, the one idea that we had.
You told me to go to a shelter and pretend like I was being beat.
No, I told you instead of running and hiding and changing your identity, go to a shelter. Don't just go run and hide your identity. Let somebody help you. That's not trying to get the baby.
I think Elizabeth did what a lot of criminals do. Whenever she got backed into a corner, she deflected. Even the idea to give away your child, how that even comes about, that was Tammy's idea. That was Tammy's fault. I didn't want to give Gabriel away. Well, I thought he could have a good home. So like anybody else, you deflect, you counter-accuse, and I think that made a lot of sense.
By getting me to do illegal things and lie about the truth.
What is illegal? What was
Everything
illegal?
you told me to do from the very beginning was illegal. Lying about the paternity of the fatherhood, putting your cousin's name and number.
Okay, that wasn't, in my mind, that wasn't anything illegal. That was me helping you fill out your paperwork, and you didn't want to put the other guy's name down because it's the guy that you guys went to high school with, and Logan's friend. And me trying to help you and Logan not to start World War III because of the guy's name. And you didn't want to give his name. Still to this day, you haven't given his name.
There is no other guy name to give.
Well, then why did you lie to me and tell me there was?
I didn't. You told me to put 3 or 4 names down, and I told you I didn't have any names to put down.
It is said that Tammy downloaded legal paperwork from the internet and that she initially tried to address the issue of Logan's parental rights by taking Elizabeth to the courthouse. Paperwork was filled out by Tammy that Tammy did not have the legal authority to file, and she listed her own cousin as being an alleged father of Gabriel. Of course, she knew that her gay cousin did not father Elizabeth's baby. But I think it's a measure of how desperate she was to try to make this happen. If Logan had not been as committed to parenting his son as he was, it would have been a clear shot, even in Arizona.
My attorney asked her, is there any possibility of there being another father? And immediately, oh yeah, definitely. It was about, wait a minute, if he's not the father, then the baby is free to be adopted.
She was one who told me to say that it wasn't his, and I guess that was one way that she was hoping that she would get the baby that way if if Logan didn't get a DNA test. She kept saying that he would have to jump through hoops. He would have to jump through hoops to get the baby in Arizona. That's what she kept making me believe. She was just so confident, and I talked to her lawyer as well, and I was like, "Are you sure? Maybe I should talk to a lawyer." And she gave me her lawyers, and I trusted her, and I believed in her, and I thought they were just really good people.
And so when Elizabeth is in San Antonio, Texas, Tammy was constantly putting pressure on Elizabeth to find a way so that Tammy could have her baby. I mean, she'd never met Logan McQueary. She'd never talked to him, his family, or anybody else. She had just decided that for whatever reason, he was not going to be a good father, and she was going to get this baby.
Tammy and Jack panicked, and they got the idea to send Elizabeth all the way from Arizona to Texas in a borrowed car. She told her grandfather she was going to run errands, and she drove straight through. I cannot fathom the determination. I mean, you would have to have some incredible level of conviction that you were doing the right thing to make a trip like that alone with an 8-month-old.
If Elizabeth Johnson was going to kill her son, The drive between Phoenix, Arizona and San Antonio is very long. And if he was sick, a screaming child in a car with her mental problems, she would have probably killed him way before she got to San Antonio.
Did you call them and say,
I never called them. You called them. It was all set up through you. I did everything you told me to do.
oh, you are a liar. A liar.
You are.
Either that or you're
I've seen the
psychotic.
interviews and everything you've been saying and doing and throwing people under the bus, and you've thrown me under the bus.
Elizabeth, you belong under the bus. You gave your baby away, and
To
you're
you.
not telling anyone.
To you.
You gave him away to us, and you told us you didn't know where the father was, and then next.
I never said that at all.
So what is everybody to believe? I mean, you said you killed him. You said you killed the baby. So you know what America believes is that you killed the baby.
Yeah, and I bet you're loving that, huh?
We're
That makes
loving
you
that?
look so innocent.
Wait, what'd you say?
That makes you look so innocent.
I want to believe that my son's somewhere out there. You know, I want to believe that it's hard to some days, you know, with all the evidence. You could probably convince me one day that he's dead, and another day you can convince me he's still alive. But we're still trying to hold out hope. Our kids believe he's alive. They want to have an older brother.
I just wish, more than anything, she would just tell us which way to go. So then we can at least have some kind of peace, some kind of closure, some kind of something. So we know to tell our kids even, hey, you know, you had a brother, or you have a brother. That's a huge difference between had and have. It is. So what is it, Elizabeth? Where is he? Is he alive? Is he dead?
You know, wherever he is, I hope he's happy. I hope it wasn't, you know, the worst people in the world where he's living on the streets somewhere and barely making it or something. I hope he's happy. I hope he's having fun, and, you know, it sucks. You know, even having to think about that, it sucks. Having to think about even finding him, you know, what would we do if we do find him? He probably has a family out there, and it sucks to think about it, but he's 12 years old right now. He's lived his whole life with another family, and he's probably happy thinking that they're his mom and dad, and he may have brothers and sisters out there, and it sucks. But it's like, who am I now, even though that's my child? And, you know, this whole time we've been thinking about him, but who am I now to take him away from another family that has raised him this whole time? And then, am I a monster to him because of what somebody else did to me, but all I want is my family to be whole? And it's just, I don't even know what to think.
I so want to just believe that he's out there. Like, I feel like sometimes I'm searching for a ghost, but I'd rather search for a ghost than search for a body, honestly.
We need your help in finding this baby. This baby needs to come home safely to his daddy. And this is not fair what you are doing to
You're the
Logan.
one doing it. You did it. I didn't do it.
What the hell did I do? You tell me what I did, Elizabeth.
You did
what
everything.
did I do?
Everything in Arizona, everything in San Antonio, everything you've done. Everything
we've
continuing.
done
You
all
just
this.
don't stop.
You're crazy. You're absolutely as crazy as they say you are.
Okay. And you know what they say about you, too.
Imagine this scenario, Elizabeth. What if these people get found, or they're scared that they're going to get found, and what if they decide, you know what, let's kill Gabriel the way Elizabeth said she killed him. Let's put him in a bag and suffocate him, put him in a diaper bag and throw him in a dumpster. Nobody will ever know that it will be us. They'll find the baby dead, and they'll think Elizabeth did what she said she did. Now you go and you get lethal injection in Texas. And I can guarantee you, a baby murderer, you're going to be beat up and raped constantly because they're going to put you in general population. You're not able to be around the ugly people like that right now, but guess what? If they find that baby dead, you will be.
There was a private investigator that came into town from Australia, and he went on television and said that he knew the whereabouts of Gabriel. And I was taken aback by that because I was like, well, that's interesting.
A private investigator from Australia who is working on behalf of the family believes that after looking at the evidence and phone records, Elizabeth did go to that San Antonio park with Gabriel.
At the same time, I was hearing from Sandy that this gentleman needed some money in order to facilitate the information flow. So I'll tell you where he's at, I'll tell you what I know, but I'm gonna need X amount of money. Of course, Sandy wanted to know about whether or not she should pay that, and she was willing to do whatever it took. I told her no, I wasn't convinced. And so again, I had seen the interview with him, I was taken aback. So myself and the FBI agent that was assisting me brought him in and we interviewed him. And of course, he denied anything that he reported on television, and he had no knowledge of it. You know, to me, this was nothing more than a shakedown. We cut him loose, and we really sort of seriously considered bringing some charges against him, but he was on the next plane out of here back to Australia, never to be heard from again.
I found the detective in charge of this case almost fixated on this idea of Gabriel being murdered. He was obsessed about it, didn't want to believe any other alternative theories, and I believe didn't really look clearly enough at the available evidence. Elizabeth loved that boy. She cared for him. She put him into the hands of those people so that he could be looked after, so that she could go off and have her break. And she loved that boy. She was never going to harm him. I don't believe that Elizabeth Johnson is guilty of murder. I don't believe she was capable of murder. And I don't believe that Gabriel was murdered.